visit us in person or order any number of unpleasant experiences by phone. It's Late Night with David Letterman. Tonight, Rob Reiner, cable TV talk show host Glendora, and comedian Rich Neidner. Plus, Paul Schaefer and the NBC Orchestra. And now, a guy who likes salad as much as the next guy. Unless the next guy is named Mr. Giant Bunny, David Letterman.
And the show was so much fun and just so good. It was white hot, and as a result, we didn't really have enough time, the fair amount of time, to devote to this woman. So she consented to be over on the show tonight. Stayed over. Her name is Glendora, and she is here tonight. You know, as I'm explaining that, I can hear a voice in my head saying, "Dave, you're just full of hot gas." And now, what was that? Speaking of hot gas, well, thank you very much. What's next here? Top 10. Category tonight in the top 10 list from the home. Glendora will be here, and also comedian Rich Scheidner. Tomorrow on the program, tomorrow is another great show. I don't know who's putting the show together, but this one is another solid gold program. Paul, you don't have any Rolaids, do you?
I can send out for some.
Yeah, do you mind?
Yeah, I'll send out.
I feel like I'm having a little trouble here tonight.
What could cause a thing like that?
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, on the program tomorrow, Sugar Ray Leonard will be here. And also from the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir. That'll be tomorrow night. Now, let's just bring out Glendora, shall we? Okay. My next guest believes in using television to spread her own special brand of happiness. She has made over 100 commercials. We have an example of one right here.
Hey, folks. How are you today? Just miserable, right? This is Glendora for delicious Worthington Vegelinks. Vegelinks by Worthington, folks, have no cholesterol. Delicious Vegelinks have fewer calories than regular hot dogs, and Vegelinks have no preservatives. I have no preservatives either. You see the wrinkles? Get your delicious Vegelinks at the Glendora Health Nook at...
No need to shop everywhere. Go straight to Twin Fair.
And her show, A Chat with Glendora, has featured guests like Robert C. Wright, the president of NBC. Folks, please welcome the happiness lady, Glendora. Hi, Glendora. How are you? Pleasure to see you. Please have a seat. Where are you from, Glendora? Where does this show take place? Where can people see this?
Oh, the Chat with Glendora?
Yeah.
You can see this on Manhattan Cable TV and Paragon Cable TV, and you can also see it in Westchester, where all the rich people live, United Artists Cable.
And from where does it originate?
Well, of course, we originated at Mr. Wright's office and at Madeline Smithberg's dressing room and at Mr. and the chairman of General Foods and the chairman of Nestle's. We originated in people's offices. Some people come to our home, David.
I see.
The chairman of Colgate-Palmolive Pete came to our home.
How do you get all of these people
at
on
7 a.m.
Yeah. And I guess you were steamed, huh, that he was there so early?
Well, the thing that interested me about him, David, was that he did his own marketing research, and he went through all of our cupboards to see if we had any Colgate-Palmolive products.
And what did the research turn up?
Zero.
Zero.
He did He didn't look under the sink cupboard where he would have found something. He didn't go into the bathroom cupboard. He really would have found something.
Now, tell me about the show. What is the format? When somebody tunes in, what do they see?
They see where were you born, where'd you go to school, what were your jobs, what is your present work like, and what advice would you give a youngster to get started on such a career today?
So it's an interview show primarily?
Yes, that's what we asked Mr. Wright.
Yeah, a half-hour show, is it?
Yes, isn't it amazing what the public will stand?
Uh-huh. And is it on once a week?
Yeah, oh yes.
And how many years have you been on the air?
Well, I've been in television 35 years, but that show's been on the air a year and 3/4.
Are you hoping that this particular show will maybe grow, perhaps expand, maybe get to a network status or a local TV station or something?
Well, I sort of doubt that.
You don't think that'll happen?
No.
Well, you sure have the wardrobe for it, you know. Now let's take a look. Show me some of the footage. This is Robert Wright, the president now
Lord, yeah.
of NBC. You know, how did you get this guy to be on the show? Because we've asked him for years and years.
Have you?
Now. Oh yeah, and he won't come on the show. How did you get him?
It must be my good looks, huh?
Yeah.
Except I did talk to him over the phone, so that wouldn't have helped. No, I figure this way, David. He's a nice man, and he does want to help the youth, and that's what this is all about.
He wants to help the youth.
Yeah, that's what this problem...
Have we heard anything about that? He wants to help the youth? Paul, did you hear anything about Robert Wright wanting to help the youth of this country?
Robert C. Wright?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to help the youth.
I think he just... I think he's just looking to balloon the stock prices. I think that's about all we're into here.
No, he's a very nice
Very nice man. All right, now let's take a look at a couple of seconds from his interview on your show, okay? We have that here? Yeah. Robert C. Wright and Glendora, helping the youth. It is a chat with Glendora.
And then we got General Electric acquired RCA. And then I came over from General Electric to become the president of NBC. And that's how I got here.
Oh, it's such an interesting career. And that's how you ended up in Fairfield, because I think General Electric's table was centered in Fairfield, wasn't it?
Yes, I actually never worked in Fairfield.
Oh, you never did?
No, I've worked, most recently my office was in Stamford, Connecticut before I came here.
Oh.
Although I live in that area, but I didn't work there.
I see, yeah. This is Mr. Robert C. Wright, who is the president and chief executive officer of NBC. And he'll be back in just a second and tell you what his work is like, to see if you'd like to aim for that as a career. And then he'll also give you some ideas how to get started in broadcasting in today's world.
It seems like you and he were dressed alike. Didn't he? You sort of have the same kind of look there. Now, I don't want to linger on this, but how did General Electric's acquisition of RCA, how did that ultimately help the youth of this country?
What helped the youth was Mr. Wright telling how he got started, because he was at the same point. Yeah, he was at the same point in his development as the youth who watch the program we hope are in theirs.
I see. Now tell me about your personal recipe for happiness. You're known as the happiness lady.
Well,
is that what they say?
No.
What do they call you?
Glendora.
Yeah.
And what did you say your name was?
I'm Dave. That'll be my last night.
You are a very good interviewer.
Well, thank you.
And I'm going to recommend you for a raise.
Thank you.
The recipe for happiness, David, is that there's one thing in this world that you can do better than anybody else. And if you will go by yourself, you will find out what that is. And you will do it, and you'll be happy. Now, if you don't do it, David, it's going to nag at you every second of your life.
So you find out what it is that you're good at.
No, the one thing that you can do better than anybody else.
The one thing you can do better than anyone else, and you just concentrate on that.
Yes, you do.
And then that'll make you happy.
Well, sure, because you'll get everything you want.
Yeah. And the Vegilinks, vegetable protein, no meat at all in here, right?
No meat.
All right. Well, geez, Glendora, good luck with the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I hope you can come back and see us again sometime.
Oh, we'd like to very much. Would that take 2 days or just one the next time?
I don't know. Oh, that's right. You were supposed to be here last night. Okay. We have to go here now. We have other guests. But thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Universal, the studio that brought you all...
I've got a great job. Money in the bank. Last month, someone asked if I read the Bible. The Bible? I'm successful. I'm happy. What do I need the Bible for? I can get more from the Wall Street Journal. But that made me curious. So I decided to take a second look.
I'm on my feet all day. When I go home, I just want to turn on the TV and relax. But read the Bible? All those these and thous and begats? Who wants to struggle with that after waiting on customers all day? But then a friend showed me this version written in modern English, and I was surprised.
This guy I play hoops with said I should start reading it, the Bible. Man, I said, I don't need no Bible. I mean, it just ain't cool. So he goes, I read it all the time. And he beat me by 20 points. So he gives me his Bible. I read it. It ain't hoops, but it ain't bad.
What's your excuse? Before you make an excuse to avoid reading the Bible, stop. Take a second look. Pick up the Bible for 5 minutes, and you may pick it up for a lifetime.
Opposing the implementation of new local rules against our pro se citizens. I am going to ask Glendora if she will read this complaint on this response on the air. Every citizen in this nation has an interest in making sure that the courts of this nation don't make laws that circumvent the rights and liberties that are afforded to us under the Constitution. If you do not agree with that, then you are absolutely watching the wrong show. Here's Dr. Pollock's response to the Fourth Circuit's unconstitutional acts. Comments injected to the final version of fee increases as applied to pro se litigants in fee-pay cases. I'll ask that Glendora read this to everyone on the TV. What they're trying to do now is they're trying to, since they virtually destroyed the rights of pro se litigants to represent themselves, now they're trying to price us out of the court where the average victim cannot even afford to, once they've been victimized, they still can't afford to pay the exorbitant court fees that the courts are imposing on our citizens. What an absolute joke this is. I am now going to play a short segment of the 38 hours of videotapes that Senate hearings showing the intent of Congress and the intent of the U.S. Senate. So, God bless and have a good day.
Again, another area that deserves the attention of this body. Mr. President, these are the crises. These are the real crises that face America, not a 98% approval of conservative Republican judges, which this body has done. This president has been served very well by the United States Senate on the timely approval of 98% of these judicial nominations. And I'd submit that the 4 that have been rejected were selected with the thought in mind that they would be rejected. Because what the other side of the body here wants, and I think what the president wants, is a fight. They know that a fight will energize the radical right wing of the Republican Party. It'll energize political contributions. And Mr. President, sadly, that's what this debate is all about. That's why the taxpayers are having to fund $100,000 or more for the cost of this. That is why we are not able to get on to the other issues that truly we ought to be addressing right now. 168 conservative Republican judges have already been approved, most with my support. That is not the question. The federal bench has a higher ratio of judges seated now than we've had in 13 years. The appellate judges are being approved at a faster rate than Clinton, Reagan, or George Bush Sr. And so, The record of this body, Republican and Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, has been one of accelerated consideration of judges in a way that hasn't been seen in many, many years. I think that reflects well on the body. What does not reflect well on this United States Senate is the hijacking that has taken place of our agenda, where we're being prevented talking about the real issues, the real crises having to do with our children, having to do with our schools, having to do with our seniors, having to do with our veterans, having to do with health care costs. That's been hijacked by a body that wants to talk about these 4 judges who were selected, I think, by a process where the president and the leadership of the other side knew very well that these would be lightning rod candidates, that they do not fall within the same mainstream body as the other 168 conservative Republican judges. And that's led to this dispute. And the dispute, I think, is not about principle. It's about energizing politics. It's about raising money. That's a sad commentary. That's contrary to the values of this body, of the American people, Republican and Democrat. The American people deserve better than what has gone on the floor of this Senate over these last many hours. We're going to see the rest of today wasted as well. And Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Mr. President. Senator from Kansas. Mr. President, thank you very much for the recognition. And I find some of this pretty amusing at 6 in the morning. We spent all Monday with the Assistant Minority Leader talking about Searchlight, Nevada, reading a book about Searchlight, Nevada. Now, I'm sure it's a great place. I've not been there, but I'm sure it's wonderful. But he used the whole day to talk about that, and then we hear endlessly about, well, why aren't we talking about veterans benefits, or why aren't we talking about unemployment, or these other things, when all Monday was used by...
Than they were 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Is that what the senator from Kansas is saying?
It is what I'm saying, and it is bad that I am pursuing this, or that we are seeing this route taking place, because this is going to lead us down a bad road, and we're already started down this road, because now you appoint legislators for life with superpowers, unable to throw those powers out, or you can't pull them out other than maybe for moral turpitude that you could actually pull them out. And so you've got these people that become, in essence, I mean, if they're not super legislators, they can almost be dictatorial or tyrannical in their position, and they're appointed for life. And that's what so many people are passionate about, what takes place on the bench today, because now you've got a super legislator that doesn't answer to the public. And it starts to get real irritating to a lot of people. And this is not the way we should be going. This is not the way we should be going. We should be backing up and saying, oh, wait a minute, these are 3 co-equal branches of government with different jobs. Different jobs. Not legislators each, but you've got a legislative, an executive, and a judicial branch. And this is the problem, because if we keep going down this trail, and you've got to examine political philosophy, because judges can write laws, or you can discover new rights, you can discover right to privacy. If you can discover a right to privacy in the Constitution, write it in as a judge yourself. What other rights can you discover in the Constitution? And it's going to be very important, the political philosophy of that person. Let's say we get 1 or 2 Supreme Court nominees that come up. Oh, now we've got somebody that we're looking at, a super legislator for life in the highest court of the land that can, with a couple of other people, rewrite this document, not just legislate, but rewrite the constitutional document. And that's why you would have these huge fights here on this floor. When we used to say in the past, thanks to the question that my colleague raised, we used to say in the past, well, you know, I disagree with the philosophy of a Breyer. I disagree with the philosophy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I disagree with the philosophy of somebody else, but they said they would uphold the law. They're confined, as I am as a legislator, of what set of powers and authorities I have. I'm confined within this. You know, I don't agree with them philosophically, but they're qualified. they're going to do a good job. I don't have a real good reason to vote against them.
Senator, the question.
Pennsylvania.
Just a question, and this is really, it gets to the heart of this 168-4 number, because the vast majority of the 168 are district court level, which are trial court level. And what the senator from Kansas, I believe, is saying, and I think just want to make it clear, is that district court judges, by and large, don't make law. They're trying cases. Appellate court judges, we have seen now, in recent years, have begun to take on the mantle of legislator in making law. And therefore, all of the nominees that are being blocked on that side are these quasi-legislative type judges. What you're suggesting is the super legislator is the Supreme Court. And so if we are in for filibusters for appellate court, can you imagine what a Supreme Court nominee fight will look like on the floor of the Senate now versus what it was like 20, 30 years ago?
Absolutely, and that's the point. You're going to be in such a mammoth fight in engaging the entire country with this that you're going to, I mean, how are you ever going to get that person through? And it does go to this constitutional case as being considered by the Supreme Court now on the flag salute, one nation under God. Here was a continuation of a discovered set of laws that somehow discovered that our children can't say the flag salute because it's one nation under God, that 90% plus of the public is for the flag salute. I'm quite confident it's ahead of that when this body raised such outrage, and yet the Ninth Circuit, in a consistent opinion with 40 years of discovering law, says, no, you can't do that. So now you put somebody in a legislative role, circuit court, lifetime appointment, can't remove them, Ninth Circuit. Ninth Circuit gets overturned all the time. I mean, as a group of legislators, they get overturned all the time by the Supreme Court. But now let's say you get a Supreme Court position that opens up. They're not going to get overturned by anybody. And you get people very fearful of the tyranny of a judiciary, which the Founding Fathers were fearful of themselves. You know, they were saying of all the branches of government, they wanted the judiciary to be the most limited because they had these lifetime appointments. They had a pretty big set of powers. And they feared that tyranny coming from the judiciary because it was a lifetime appointment. It was something that wasn't subject back to the people and the checks and balances of the people. People check and balance the president. People check and balance me. People check and balance everybody that are in this body. But do they the judiciary? Where's the populace's check and balance here? And that's why this is an important debate, and that's why so many people are concerned about it. I say what we should be doing is backing up and saying, no, this is about the strict construction of the documents that pass through legislative bodies that are in the Constitution, that go through an extraordinary process. Whereas you aptly pointed out, the senator from Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court discovers a new right in this Constitution. If we had written that in there, it would have taken a vote of 2/3 of these bodies, 3/4 of the states to become law. I mean, this is a big, lengthy process, and as such, we've had a limited number of constitutional amendments, as it should be. Strong documents, standing over 2 centuries of time, and yet a court can discover these. We really should back up and say, and stand on the issue of, no, this should be about strict construction of what's taking place. And this is a very, very important key fight to have. With that, I would like to yield the floor. There's several other people that would seek to speak.
Mr. President.
The senator from Pennsylvania.
Mr. President, I just want to take a step back here and go through what we're doing here. What is going on here? What is going on in the United States Senate that is brought about this debate, which has been so important? The what is going on. Now, can we agree on that? Can we agree on what's going on? I think we can. Let me just use the words of, and I would agree with these words, written by John Corzine, the senator from New Jersey, who happens to be the chairman, and that's where, in his capacity, he wrote this, the chairman of the Democratic Senatorial Committee. Senator from South Carolina who's here, and Senator from Minnesota who's here. We're talking about this throughout the night. So precedent it means, according to the dictionary, having no precedent. What's precedent? An earlier occurrence. an earlier occurrence. So, having no earlier occurrence. What's that mean? It's never happened before.
These are just a fragment of the evidence that has been assembled and sent to me by Glendora. Why won't they allow this person the right to get equal access to our courts? The United States is supposed to represent freedom and liberty.
Hi there, folks. We have to do an insert edit. The camcorder got damaged. When the camcorder was sick, it damaged the videotape. And on the videotape were 4 jokes that belong to you. And so we have to do those jokes over because you need all the laughs that you can get. So here's the jokes. Now, this is a maternity hospital, and it's a waiting room. And the nervous new father said to the man next to him, "Here, have a cigar." And the man next to him said, "Oh, congratulations. What is it, a boy or girl?" And the nervous new father says, "I don't know one cigar from another." Now, have you heard about the gardener's exercise program? Okay, you start out fresh as a daisy, and you end up bushed. Now, Richard Simmons says that swimming will give you a good physique, a good figure. But I'm not too sure about that, folks. Have you ever taken a close look at a duck? Annette said to the taxi cab driver, "Could you back up for 1.5 miles?" And the taxi driver says, "Why?" Annette says, "Because I'm $1.50 short." This is the addition to Glendora Cheerful Look at Life. Now, what do you say we go to interview some more people to tell the children how they started on their careers and how the children can start on such careers themselves today?
Welcome to a chat with Glendora, America's champion of pro se litigants' rights and First Amendment rights. Stay tuned, we will be right back with our show.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! Who are we? Acorn! When do we want it? Justice! When do we want it? Now! Who are we? Acorn! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! The people! United! Will never be defeated! 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 The people! United! Will Acorn! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! The people! United! Will never be defeated! 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 The people! United! Will united! Will
George McDermott just gave me this, folks. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Not that anybody follows them.
Amen to that.
Except us pro se's. We follow them. But the lawyers don't follow them, and the judges don't follow them. There's Federal Rules of Civil Procedures, published by... Except that we would turn around and show you that it's a very glad situation. That's of Elena Sassower. Elena Sassower knew this judge. I think his name was Kaufman. And I believe he was in Albany. And I believe that he was nominated to be a federal judge. And both Elena and her mother knew this judge to be crooked. And so, when Congress had the committee to nominate him as a federal judge, Elena, brave that she is, spent her own money, her own time, and all of her labor, went down to Washington, D.C. to oppose that appointment. And Congress didn't give her a chance to speak. And so the gavel went down, and she realized it's over, and she traveled all this distance, and she had this commitment to show America that this man was not fit. And the gavel goes down, and Elena stands up and says, I want to protest the appointment of, and she was arrested. And I believe she was put in jail, and I believe she had to pay bail. And so there was a trial on that for 6 days this past week, this week and last week, in the United States Superior Court in the District of Columbia. You understand we have two United States of America, right? We have the United States of America that operates in the District of Columbia, and we have the United States of America that operates outside of the District of Columbia. Well, George McDermott, American hero that he was, he went to that trial every day for 6 days. And he reported what was going on there. And terrible things went on. Terrible, un-American things went on. But George and others were there, and they put the information up on the website. And the newspapers were there. Isn't this a terrible thing? A woman stands up to protect America against a bad judge, and she gets arrested and has to go to trial. Now she goes before a judge who is fully as bad as the judge that she was protesting. His name is Hoffman. And now I have a videotape, or an audio tape rather, of George's report that he gave me last night. And I must play this report for you. I don't know if we can do it outdoors or not. That's the question right now. Okay. Folks, you want some of the nut fruit shake? It's delicious.
It's cashews, oatmeal, pineapple juice, and bananas. Okay, as discussed earlier, we're going to take a look at the map of the United States, and we're going to focus on the District of Columbia, and we're going to play you this conversation, Glendora to George McDermott. Glendora, New York, George McDermott in Maryland.
How you doing? Oh, fine. The new Dolan lawsuit is just about on its way, maybe tomorrow.
Well,
Yep. And, so, what are we going to do about DCTV?
I haven't had time to even do anything with it. I've been in court with Elena for the last 6 days.
Oh, is Elena still in court?
Yes, they finally went to the jury today.
Oh, it went to the jury today, and you were there with the last all 6 days?
Yep. But the problem is they'll both be proved until the transcript's out, but it's the most...
I didn't understand that.
It's the most corrupt jury trial I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So,
what about the transcripts?
When they come out, they will show that this has been the most secretive trial that it was ever had.
Really? But maybe the transcripts will be cheated.
Well, we can only go by what we're going by, and it's on a computer, and the gal is doing it well, and she knows that we're watching her, and she knows that there are people in the gallery. I mean, the legal times was in the courtroom for the last 3 days, all day.
Oh, really?
The congressional record was in the courtroom all 3 days for the last 3 days.
Really?
The Washington Post was in and out all 3 days.
All 3 days? It wasn't 6 days?
No, they've been mostly since Elizabeth posted that article on the website about the...
Folks, this is Dr. Elizabeth Pollock, a student of the law of great acumen.
Where in 85% of the case of the jury trial was under a squelching machine.
And she posted that notice on the internet?
Yeah. I gave it to her to post.
Well, good for you. And so since
85% of the proceedings that day was, as soon as Elena was raised a defense, and the prosecutor would ask for a bench conference. The bench conference would be, they go up to the bench, and then they push this button, and everything is a squelching machine. It keeps anything from the jury.
Isn't that outrageous? So what became of that? What was the result of that?
What's that?
You said ever since...
Now, she would make a statement. This is the judge absolutely...
Yes, yeah, but you said ever since Elizabeth posted it on the network, what happened?
Elizabeth posted it on the World Wide Web.
Yes.
On secretjustice.com.
Oh, great. And then what was the result of that?
And the papers picked it up, and they started calling her. So now the media knows that I'm in the courtroom observing it.
You're in the courtroom, what?
I'm observing it.
Observing it. Okay, I got it.
So it's been,
what a help you've been to Elena.
They've been paying a little bit more attention. She acknowledged me on her website the other day, so for being there and reporting it. And
where? On her website?
On her website. Mm-hmm. She actually got locked up today.
Oh, now tell me about that.
Well, it started out bad. When it started out this morning, the judge said, well, we're going to go through this thing and we'll have the pre-trial stuff. And he says, Elena had given him a list of 87 documents that she would like to see moved into evidence or discussed. And he says, no, we're not. He says,
Folks, this is George McDermott in Washington, D.C., and he's reporting on the trial of Elena Sassauer of Westchester County, New York. That's just above New York City. And Elena went to a congressional committee meeting to oppose the appointment of a judge to the federal bench. I believe the judge's name was Kaufman, and she went there to oppose it, and suddenly, without notice, the gavel went down and the hearing was over. And Elena rose and said, I wanted to say something about Kaufman, why he should not be appointed a federal judge. And she was arrested. So all you have to do in the United States of America is stand up for good, and you get arrested. And she was put in jail, and she had to pay bail to get out. And she was charged with obstructing Congress. Well, how did she obstruct Congress? The gavel was down, the meeting was over. What did she do to obstruct Congress? She was a citizen who stood up and was exercising her public forum right to speak. Now, is this First Amendment? Is this the United States of America? Is this Constitution? Okay, now, guess what? She gets arrested today, or rather yesterday, right in the middle of the trial. Let me back this up just a little bit. This is George McDermott reporting to you on a chat with Glendora about the unfair and disamericanized trial of Elena Sassauer.
Regarding her arrest, or certain documents regarding to the underlying facts of the arrest, everyone of them showed up without a document one. The court didn't say anything to them. You're not entitled to these documents, and you're not going to give them. These were documents that allowed for discovery. They weren't given. So it's been a joke. It's been a joke trial. What about almost being locked up? Well, she was locked up. Today she was giving her closing. She was giving her examination, and she mentioned a letter. 4 minutes into the cross-examination by she got her statement in, and 4 minutes into the cross-examination by the prosecution, the judge stopped the trial, dismissed the jury into the jury room, and had the marshals arrest her and put her in jail for an hour and a half. For what reason? Because she was not allowed to talk about the evidence. They asked her, well, why did you contact Clinton's office? And she said, well, it was regarding this 37-page fax that was faxed to them. And bingo, you're not supposed to talk about that 37-page fax. It was the underlying fact of it. So if you brought any of that evidence, try to get that evidence, then I will put you, and you disrespected me, and you're going to jail. Oh, good. So, she went in jail for an hour and a half, and then when she got back out of jail, when they arrest somebody, when they put handcuffs on you and escort you from the room, okay, you're supposed to be charged, okay, under 28-401. You're supposed to have a formal complaint against you, charged and be arraigned, and then being given a chance to defend, right? Yeah. Well, they didn't charge her. They kept her in jail for an hour and a half, and she came back out, because I called my wife's ex-boss. I called William's mom, and she called his wife's ex-boss. You told whose mom? William's mom. Oh, you called Doris? Yeah. And Doris called your wife's ex-boss? Right, and then was trying to get a lawyer for her. And so got a lawyer for her? So apparently the word got back to the court that there were already big front lawyers looking into the case. So apparently when I got back to the court after, because this attorney next court at 20 after 1, the doors of the court were locked, and the only people who were in there were the judge, the prosecutor, and her legal advisor, and the court reporter. So something went on in secret there.
Folks, does this sound like America? This is the trial of Elena Sassower, who went to Washington, D.C. from New York to oppose the appointment of a judge to the federal bench. And she gets locked up and arrested for that. And now she's having a trial. And in the middle of the trial, because she's trying to present her case and telling the truth, she gets locked up by this superior court judge in Washington, D.C. Does this sound like America to you? This is George McDermott reporting to Glendora about the trial in Washington, D.C. yesterday of poor Elena Sassower, who went there to stand up for America. And for you.
But when she came back out, she was no longer arrested. Well, when she came back out, they resumed the trial at 1:30. Actually, 1:40, they resumed the trial, and the judge told her that in no uncertain terms, you can't do this, you can't do this, and you're going to have to close up. Actually, he stopped her in the middle of her cross-examination and told her that her defense of her case was closed. She couldn't do anything else. That was it. It's over with. You're not doing anything else. You can't raise any more of a defense. If you go against me, I'll send you back into lockup. What is his name? Hoffman? Hoffman. First name? Okay.
The judge's name in the Superior Court, who's doing all these terrible, dis-Americanized things to Elena Sassower, is named Hoffman.
They moved into the closing arguments, and she was talking about the one that you want to give jury instructions in closing arguments, and they excluded all the perjury instructions, and they included all the defendants, the plaintiffs' jury arguments, and she objected highly to it, and she had every right to, because it was very prejudicial setting all the way through. I mean, you can see the prejudice coming out of the judge. Yeah.
McDermott said you can see the prejudice coming out of the judge. We have to get this on DC TV as soon as possible.
And he said, well, we're going to move into after we have the jury selection, after we start the jury, he says, we'll take a 10-minute recess, and then you will, we'll take 10-minute recess, and then you will give your clothes. He says, yeah, the prosecutor, he said, well, what is your clothes to? And he said, we'll take me about 20, 25 minutes, and probably 5 to 7 minutes to close after that. Who would take 7 to 5 minutes? The prosecutor? Yeah, they'll take another 5 to 7 minutes to, oh, okay, after her close. To rebut before. She has the last word? Yeah, okay. And then Diana said, well, honestly, she's suppressed so much evidence in mine, and, based on the length of the trial, I don't know exactly how long it will take me to do close. He says, you've got 20 minutes to this. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. But this is going into the 6th day of the trial. This is judicial time there, huh? Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the 6th day of the trial, they suppressed 80% of her. Hold on a second, please. This is George McDermott. And Elena Sassower went to a congressional hearing to oppose the appointment of a judge to the United States District Court. And they arrested her. And I believe this was some time ago. Just this part. And okay. This was the trial last week and this week in the U.S. Superior Court in Washington, D.C. And the charges were obstructing Congress. Hello? Yes, George. That was this one calling. I've got to go to a rally with them on Thursday.
He said that was Acorn calling. They stand up for your rights. Acorn calling, they wanted a rally on Thursday at 4:30.
Bless you. Now, George, so then what happened after he said you have 20 minutes to close? And so they went ahead and they had they went to the jury instructions and they gave the jury the instructions. Were they there? Oh yeah, they were basically, most of them were basic, but some of them were exclusionary, which she couldn't, she hasn't been able to get in any of the relevant evidence. I mean, if relevancy has any right at all in this court, I mean, these are the relevant evidence that she, when it's, instead of relevant evidence to when this was a trial was monumental. Wow. Monumental. I mean, and obviously, your trial judge was a sweetheart. He was a sweetheart compared to this guy.
George is referring to Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation in the Rye City Court, County of Westchester, State of New York, United States of America. His name was Peter Lane, and George is saying that Peter Lane was a sweetheart compared to this Hoffman in the U.S. Superior Court in D.C.
Yeah. So then they go to the trial. I didn't get back in time to hear the prosecution's closing arguments, but I did get back in time to hear all the latest. He was going through point by point by point as to why the prosecution's case should fail. She was doing an excellent job. 20 minutes comes up and he says, "You're finished, young lady. Over. Go sit down." Oh my goodness, he's not even courteous. No, you're finished. He's not even patient and courteous. He's saying anything to me.
You know, folks, Canon 3A says that a judge has to be courteous and patient to litigants. What do you think this one is?
Terrible. And I don't even worry about it anymore. I mean, it's not working. And, in the first place, they arrested you, and then they let you go. When they put handcuffs on you, they have an obligation to fill out an incident report and charge you. They did not do that, so they denied you due process rights again. Well, you mean the first time they arrested her, or today when they arrested her? Today when they arrested her. I see, today when they arrested her. Oh, setting back. That's what they call it. He's going to set you back. And it means you go back to lockup. He said, and then just before she gave a closing argument, she said, "Your Honor," she says, "I've been in the lockup, and I haven't had time to get together with my court advisor, and I'm hungry, and I would like to," he says, "Look, you chose to be in lockup at lunchtime, not me." "Oh, how come?" "Yeah, you either move on, or I'll send you back there." Oh, this is a tyrant.
Isn't that childish? Isn't that bullish? Or bullying to do that? Isn't that renegade? Profligate? Abandoned?
He did. Where does he get off doing these things? Who do you think he is? Well, the thing is, I just look at it as I'm so used to it. I just look at it and say, well, the transcript will tell the story. I told the Linda that tonight when we're back up there. It makes no difference whether you win or lose. If you lose, you're going to take it on appeal. If you don't lose, you're still going to take it. You're still going to expose the record once the transcript is out.
Absolutely. I believe this is a great call. I believe that God is fed up with that court and with that man named Hoffman and with his dis-Americanism. And I believe that Elena is on one of the biggest adventures and the most important adventures of her lifetime.
Yes, I agree. And what did she say? She said, You're absolutely right. Okay, so then it went to the jury, and the jury left. Well, actually, when the jury, when the judge is sitting there, she's trying to make a point and very articulate, and she was to me, but she was really getting the point across. To the jury. To the jury. And then the judge just stopped right, and that was it. And the jury looked, what the hell, what is this? Really? How many juries? How many juries? There were 13 of them, they just took one. There were 13? Yeah, they just 13 of them. Oh, well, that's good. That's good that they didn't try to fix one. Okay. Yeah, so... What did you think of the jury? They were astonishing amount of...
This is George McDermott reporting to Glendora on the trial of Elena Sassauer, who went from New York to Washington, D.C. to oppose the appointment of a candidate for the United States judgeship in the U.S. District Court. And she encountered this very mean she encountered this very mean judge who violated her due process to the extent of even putting her in jail during the trial.
And then, all through the trial, the judge excluded everything about her prior record. Which she tried to give in. Right? Everything. Like for what? Like for what, for instance? What she subpoenaed the officers to prove that, to supply the rest report. Well, they don't have it. They don't know where it's at. They've lost the tape on the prior arrest. They ought to be sued for obstructing justice. And absolutely. And then all of these things get together, and then she's fighting a very tough battle and doing a stellar job of it. Oh, wonderful. How does she do it? Well, she's a very smart and articulate person. Yes, I know that. I've known her for years. And so, what happens now is to move forward to something else, and we wait to see. But, wait a second. Explain that, please. Move forward to something else. Yeah, tomorrow she needs to be found guilty or innocent. Okay? So are you going to court tomorrow? I don't think I can make it up. My wife is about to kill me out with 6 days' work. Yes, I see. I've got to go. Well, you're a great hero to go there. Yeah. But I left her number. I said, when you get finished, you call me. I will take off any time of day after that, after 9 o'clock, and I will come over and do an interview with you for Glendora. Oh, good.
We give special thanks to the aforementioned people. George E. McDermott, producer, DC TV, Channel 76 TV, Prince George's County, the Maryland Judiciary and the Federal Judiciary, Lee Young, and Montgomery County Cable Access TV, and finally, fraudvictim.org. And Victims United Against Fraud and Unjust Treatment in Our Courts. To find out more about this story, you can visit www.fraudvictim.org. The entire story is
Welcome to a chat with Glendora, America's champion of pro se litigants' rights and First Amendment rights. Stay tuned, we will be right back with our show.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. Who are we? Acorn. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. Who are we? Acorn. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. The people united will never be defeated. 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 The people united will acorn. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. The people united will never be defeated. 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 The people united will united will.
I'll take my batteries to the last.
George McDermott just gave me this, folks. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Not that anybody follows them.
Amen to that.
Except us pro se's. We follow them. But the lawyers don't follow them, and the judges don't follow them. There's Federal Rules of Civil Procedures, published by West. And I'll get you pictures of my new church. Wow, what a sanctuary. This is a complaint to Congress. U.S. Court of Appeals Judicial Council reviews complaint against the U.S. Court of Appeals Judicial Council. How much of this stuff do you think they think we're going to take? Doesn't this prove how ridiculous federal courts have become? Is it right for the complainee to review the complaint about the complainee? Isn't that what you did? The Judicial Council of the D.C. Circuit reviewed the complaint about the Judicial Council of the D.C. Circuit. Isn't that a nadir? Let's summarize the action. Public Access, District of Columbia, DC TV, would not cablecast a chat with Glendora, and that violated federal law. Glendora sued to demand and enforce her right to be on DC TV. That DC violated America was okay with federal judge Paul L. Friedman. Okay. So Glendora complained about his judicial conduct against America and his disability to the U.S. Court of Appeals, D.C. The Chief Judge, Ginsburg, incestuously took the side of her own and tossed America into the trash. Glendora asked for a review of Ginsburg by the Judicial Council, D.C. Like Friedman, like Ginsburg, the Judicial Council failed America. So, Glendora sued the Judicial Council for rendering meaningless Congress's Judicial Reform Act of November 2002. Meanwhile, the U.S. Court of Appeals, frivolous and with no grounds, went along with Buddy Friedman again and dismissed Glendora's appeal. Further, meanwhile, DC TV started cablecasting a chat with Glendora, which showed that DC TV, their liar for hire, Friedman, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, Ginsburg, the 14 judges on the Judicial Council, what did it show about them, folks? They were wrong. When Glendora sued the judges in the United States Court of Appeals, D.C., said judges went fugitive and made believe that Glendora was filing a suit in the U.S. District Court, D.C., when she was filing the suit in the United States District Court in Montana. This was criminal under 18 U.S. Code, Section 1001, lying, deliberately misrepresenting, and Glendora invoked RICO to prosecute. Meanwhile, the Judicial Council reviews the complaint about the Judicial Council and says the Judicial Council did not do anything bad. It makes good television, but it makes bad Americanism. What does it prove? It proves that every cent spent on these clowns in these circuit courts is wasted. We call them circus courts. Every clown in these circus courts is wasted. Glendora propelled the cheaters to the ultimate shame, incest. If you want justice, go punch somebody in the nose. You will not find justice in the administration of the business of the courts, which is Title 28, U.S. Code, Section 352. The business of the courts is justice. Friedman, U.S. District Court, D.C., U.S. Court of Appeals, D.C., and the 15 judges thereon that Glendora named have been out of business for years. Their business is justice, and they've been out of business for years. Who won? Well, Glendora won in bringing the matter to a vortex and making public how meaningless are the courts. Who lost? DC TV, their liar for hire, Friedman, U.S. District Court, D.C., Ginsburg through Kennedy, U.S. Court of Appeals, D.C., and these new birds they found, John Roberts, Circuit Judge, Lamberth, Kessler, Richard Roberts, Huvel, Walton, and Bates, district judges. I thought that I cleaned them out of judges, but they keep coming up with more at your taxpayer money of over $140,000 a year. And who loses? America. The saddest loser of all is America. Glendora will make her knowledge public wherever she can. Public access TV is a public forum, both a traditional and a designated public forum. You have concealed your true value long enough. What can we do to help you? The power, the prestige, the money, the fulfillment that you seek is not where you are seeking it. If that's what you want, you've got to look somewhere else. And how we change them over into the right road, Congress? But then, Congress, you are not so American either. Look at what you did to Elena Sassar. Shame on you. That is abominable traitorship to the United States of America. And you are not fit to appoint these judges. Maybe that's why the judges are so bad, because Congress is so bad. Well, we can still pray for them. The grandeur they seek is nowhere where they are looking. Dated April the 25th, 2004, Anno Domini. Does the camera say the 26th? If it does, it's right. If you hear messages on the tape recorder and they say AM, PM, it's 24 hours off, or 12 hours off. And I don't want to ask my friend in White Plains to change the time again, because last time I asked her, she changed the time. It was nice, but she hit some other button and the machine wouldn't answer, and that took a week to fix. So just if you hear AM on the answering machine, it's PM. yours in truth and in amor patriae, love of one's country. A chat with Glendora on 42 TV stations, including Washington, D.C., without prejudice, Uniform Commercial Code, Book 1, Section 207, Glendora. To Orrin Hatch and to the House Judiciary and to George McDermott and to the Center for Judicial Accountability Incorporated, to Zavi, to Richardson, to George Bush, to Glendora TV audience, voila. And to Huda Sue, 2 copies. This took 4 hours and $6 and is opus 1123, and also to Meekum, the so-called administrator of U.S. courts. You want to hear some jokes? Here's their dumb paper where they dismiss the complaint and they give no grounds. And it says, ordered by the Judicial Council, and Glendora puts an arrow to it and says, what stature have they left? Other legal papers are Omnibus 21, Nasty Landlord Natalia, Bully Judge Dixon, and Lawyer for Hire Kleinbaum, and the Village of Chatham. And that's 1, 2. Oh, and Omnibus 21. As soon as Natalia's done, Omnibus 21 will be done. And I don't know where we can find $150 to file that. But if you don't pay $150, guess where it goes? I've got a long job, George McDermott and Elena Sassower discussing the disgusting thing that happened to her in Washington, D.C. last week. I've got an hour tape on that to show you. And that's going on DC TV. Some jokes. The little boy says when his daddy went to the hospital, they put him in the expensive care unit. And the room clerk said to the traveler, do you want a room with a tub or with a shower? And the traveler says, what's the difference? And the room clerk said, well, with a tub you get a chance to sit down. And those signs that they have in hotels, have you left anything? They should say, have you anything left? Diane says, my boyfriend and I have a strange and wonderful relationship. He's strange and I'm wonderful. And Peter's very active in church. He wiggles and he squiggles and he moves around. And remember that when you're listening to a speech, the mind cannot absorb more than the seat can endure. And did you hear about George Will? He's a popular newspaper columnist. And did you know that his column is seen in the best bird cages in America? Marilyn says, my boyfriend is going places. And her father rather said, the sooner the better. Why did the man connect his TV with a microwave? So he could watch 60 Minutes in 10 minutes. Well, I do believe that's all. Oh, we missed our prayer at 3:35. You say the prayer, okay? Thank you, God, for all this rain we're getting in April and all of the clouds we're getting in April, when we've only had 3 days of good sunshine in April so far. But no, thank you, God, for how quickly the grass gets green, and thank you for how much fun it is to watch the new leaves come out. And thank you, God, for the blueberry bushes that are leafing out. And thank you that we're looking into spring ahead of us instead of behind us, right? My faith looks up to thee, the Lamb of Calvary, Savior divine. Oh, hear us while we pray, take all our guilt away. Oh, let us from this day be wholly thine. Time, folks. 5:30 in the morning. The 2-week cycle's over. Why should Goodyear and IBM merge to manufacture a computer that makes snap decisions? Okay, let's start setting up the editing. Before we leave the subject of the wonderful thing that Elena Sassauer has given the world, she has shown that the public has nothing to say about the appointment of federal judges. She gave everything she had. She went to Washington, D.C. She knew that this candidate for the judgeship was no good, and she went down there to say so. And Congress wouldn't hear her or any other citizen. And when she rightfully protested, she was arrested. I believe she was put in jail and had to pay bail or something. But anyway, that happened last May, the year 2003. And in the year April, this year, April and May 2004, she had a trial, and the judge violated all due process, and the judge took away your rights. When they took away her rights, they took away your rights. And she was, and her information was withheld from the jurors. She did not get a fair trial. And it was an awful failure of the courts, in addition to Congress. I should think she would sue Brian Hoffman, the judge who did this to her. In fact, that judge should be fined and put in jail. Now, just as the public had nothing to say about who became President of the United States the last election, the public did not appoint or elect George Bush. George Bush was appointed by the judiciary. This whole thing with the judiciary has to be changed. They do not monitor themselves. They just keep encroaching and encroaching upon our rights. And this has to be stopped. Judicial tyranny. Elena Sassauer has shown through her personal sacrifice that it is not a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is a government by the judges, for the judges, and by the judges. It is a government of the judges. Okay, this is George McDermott's letter to Elena Sassauer. he sent her a copy of the interview. I do not like DCTV being having no respect for news. The trial coverage of Elena Sassow should have been on the TV right away instead of in June, 2-3 months later. Now that's no good, DCTV. You're not doing a good job for the public. The public has a right to know, a First Amendment right to know, and this is what public access is, and you're falling down. One other thing is going on. That's the summons for Omnibus 19, Glendora versus Sabot, a depraved Montana federal judge. This is why we have such bad judges on the bench. The public has nothing to say about their appointment. Nothing. Nothing. Can you believe that? You have nothing to say about the appointment of a judge on the federal bench. So I'm sending out these summons for Omnibus 19, United States District Court, District of Nebraska. That's the court that kept returning my complaint because I didn't pay money, you see. You know, justice is a luxury. You know, only rich people can afford it. You know, if you're a poor person, you can't pay the fee. Well, then you can't go to court. Okay, you can't have any justice. And so these summons are being made out the way the court wants them made out. The Wisconsin court did it entirely differently. There should be some uniformity among the federal courts, but there isn't. The whole thing's a mess. The whole thing is a terrible mess. And so that's being done. Also, I'm writing another complaint to Chairman Donaldson of the Securities Exchange Commission that why Charles Dolan wouldn't show me the books, records, and minutes and shareholders list 107 times. And so I said there's something wrong here, and it's another Enron, and I call for an investigation. Okay, it's 5:30, thereabouts. We rejoice for the new day, to get out of bed and walk around and do things that have to be done. And so we'll set up the VCRs. They're turned on. I had to do this last bit of videotaping. Why did the man cross a microwave oven with a TV set? So he could hear and watch 60 minutes in a quarter of an hour. Okay, let's edit the last 2 weeks' information that you should have that NBC, ABC, and CBS and Fox News do not give you. Not what a judge should be, and she had personal knowledge, and she sacrificed her time and her labor and went all the way to Washington, D.C. to oppose the appointment of Wesley to the federal bench before the Senate Judicial Committee. She gets there and they won't let her speak. And before she knows it, the gavel goes down and the hearing is over. And she asked very politely as a citizen if she could speak. And she was arrested. And then there was a trial. And a phony charge was brought against her, as the U.S. attorneys always do, brought the phony charge of disrupting Congress. And she had a trial for 5 or 6 days, and the judge would not let her present her evidence, and the judge would not let her have discovery that she was entitled to. The name of that judge is Brian Holman, and he ran amok over the due process and the Constitution, and it was an outrage to America. I had this conversation with Elena just recently, and I thought it was interesting enough to play for you.
Elena, is anybody coming to your defense? The whole world should rise to your defense. It's no wonder that Glendora is suing in courts all over the United States. Hi, did anybody come to your defense?
Not yet.
The whole world should come to your defense.
Oh, you terrific. How are you, Glendora?
Oh, excellent. You know, you did us a great favor. You showed us that we have absolutely no input as to the judges that go on the federal bench. And no wonder the judges on the federal bench are so bad. It is no wonder. We all owe you something.
Thank you so much.
What are we going to do? You know,
Everything that you say then.
absolutely. The whole
Nobody says nice things about me, and to hear from you is so beautifully expressed. I appreciate it.
Well, that's a terrible thing. And you were so great and wonderful the way you went through all this at your own expense and all that time and all that legal
Well,
research.
you're a citizen activist yourself, but you understand what's involved.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a sensitivity.
Well, what are we going to do for you? They can't get away with that.
And now I'm working hard to dig out. I had a letter to the editor published in Roll Call, which is an important newspaper on Capitol Hill. You don't have the internet, right?
No.
No. Okay, so I'll mail it to you so that you can see it.
Well, that's good. I'll read it on TV.
Oh, that would be wonderful, Glendora.
I sent down 5 programs.
You're terrific.
And I'm going to keep them going. Well, that's a terrible thing that happened to you.
It is.
You know, you were accused...
And to all of us.
Oh, yes, right.
You want to hear something very interesting, Glendora?
Yeah.
Did you watch the hearing on Friday where
No, I didn't.
Secretary Rumsfeld testified?
No, go ahead, tell me.
You know, there was a protest in the middle of the hearing. There were a group of citizens who unfurled the banner and called for Rumsfeld to resign. Well, you would think that they would have been arrested for obstruction of Congress, right? That's why it's the reason for which I was arrested when I respectfully requested to testify in opposition at the conclusion of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Yeah, I did it at an appropriate point in a respectful way. I was seeking to testify, which is the point of the hearing. No, these people simply were not arrested. It's incredible. I mean, they unfurl the banner, they shout out, and they were...
My goodness.
But I was arrested.
Yeah, but you were arrested. And for saying a respectful 10 words.
For a special request to be permitted to testify.
And it's outrageous that nobody...
It's stunning. I actually didn't know about it until yesterday, late in the day, because I had assumed they were arrested, but apparently they were not.
See that?
To the aforementioned people, George E. McDermott, producer, DCTV, Channel 76 TV, Prince George's County, the Maryland Judiciary and the Federal Judiciary, Lee Young, and Montgomery County Cable Access TV, and finally, fraudvictim.org. And Victims United Against Fraud and Unjust Treatment in Our Courts. To find out more about this story, you can visit www.fraudvictim.org.
that a motion to disqualify the judges of the Court of Appeals. And what he did was to trash the disqualification motion together with his judicial brethren. So as to... Where was he, in the Second Circuit? And he was on the New York Court of Appeals, or State Class. Oh, New York Court of Appeals. Right. And why wasn't he out of the 7? I'm sorry, say it again? Yes, why wasn't he out of the 7? Well, is the other 6 here? The case went to all of them. But accompanying the case up was a motion to disqualify each of the judges. Now, that motion went to them both individually and collectively. That's what's so extraordinary about what he and they did with respect to the disqualification motion. Because, as you know, a disqualification motion has nothing to do per se with the merits of the case. It has to do with the impartiality and the appearance of impartiality of the sitting judges. And what I alleged and documented was the disqualification of the judges for interest, which is a mandatory disqualification. And my motion to disqualify the judges was a 68-page affidavit supported by voluminous substantiating documents establishing good for you that they had to disqualify themselves as a matter of law. Yeah. So what did Judge Wesley and the other judges do? Well, they purported, they pretended that the court lacked authority to entertain the motion made on non-statutory grounds. That's what they claimed. Well, aside from the fact that they didn't give any legal citation for the proposition that the court would lack authority, the inference is that I made this motion on non-statutory grounds. Well, that was an outright lie. I made the motion on statutory grounds, on grounds of interest. Yeah. But they could not address the motion, so they lied as to its nature. Oh, yeah. Dismissed it. They didn't deny it. They dismissed it. But then, additionally, not only did they dismiss this statutorily based motion, which as a matter of law required their disqualification for interest, which is mandatory, but this order, which they issued, then identifies that the motion was provided to each of the individual judges for their individual consideration as to whether, by reason of the appearance of impropriety, they should disqualify themselves. And the order goes on to say that individually, each of the judges denied the recusal. Well, the fact of the matter is that each of the judges individually was in a position to see that the motion was statutorily based. So they each individually saw that the dismissal of the motion as it related to their disqualification for interest was a lie. But none of them blew the whistle. Just as none of them, in denying recusal that is based upon any appearance of their lack of impartiality, none of them saw fit to identify any of the grounds set forth by me as to as constituting the appearance that they could not be fair and impartial, just as none of them made any disclosure as they were required to do, and I had expressly requested. So what you have here are judges who, like judges in the lower state courts and indeed throughout the judiciary, who don't care about their obligations to be fair and impartial or about the appearance of being fair and impartial. They don't care about the statutes. They don't care about the ethical rules. It all goes out the window so that they can do what they need to do to protect the vested interest, the judicial interest. All of that qualifies them for the federal bench. What? All of that
qualifies him for the federal bench.
That's right, that's right. That's what Wesley went on to do with his judicial brethren after trashing the motion that I had made for the disqualification of the judges, was to disregard the public's right to review of this case as of right, if not by leave, because what was presented to them was a record establishing that the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct had been the beneficiary of 5 fraudulent lower court decisions in 3 separate lawsuits without which it would not have survived. Okay. Now this is record that was readily verifiable before them for review. Not only did they not review it, but they did not take any steps to ensure the integrity of the governmental integrity by making appropriate disciplinary and criminal referrals, as was expressly sought by me. I mean, here you have a state highest court that's not discharging its supervisory obligation to accept review of a case involving the integrity of the state agency charged with receiving and investigating complaints against judges. Right, you know of it. This is old hat for you because you've been around this block before.
Good job, Elena. You did a great job.
You know, you have also been carrying the banner for so many years.
Good for you, Elena. That was a great one.
We know what we're talking about here, and it's you know, we go on. Truth will prevail.
Yeah, you're terrific.
Ultimately, well, we do what we can, and if I could do more, I certainly would do more. But we need to.
You have the qualities that excite my wonder. Along with my approbation.
Thank you. Listen, I actually have to get.
And you deserve the highest esteem.
Thank you. Listen, I have to go because I'm on my way into the city right now.
Okay.
Well, actually, in about a half an hour, I need to be out. So let me say goodbye to you, but thank you for calling.
Did I tell you that computers are in the Bible?
No.
Eve said to Adam, "Do you want an apple too?"
Very good. Touche. Now, as we're speaking, I'm looking for your address. I put it aside because
Dock 124.
Yeah. Okay. Hint?
Yeah. 12075.
Okay, good. I want to send you that letter to the end.
Well, good for you, Elena.
Okay.
You did a great job, boy. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you, Glendora.
Okie-doke.
And keep up the good work yourself.
Okie-doke.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. May 11, 2004.
It took 11 and a half hours to make the dubs of the upsetting of Glendora's signer in 2002 in the Dutchess County system. Bill Bale from Judicial Council reviews a complaint against the U.S. Court of Appeals Judicial Council. I read that to you at the time it was published and at the time it was submitted. And here's their, I said it wasn't signed, so therefore it's a bogus, that's just one thing. And they write back and say, oh, it's okay that it's not signed. And I write back to them and tell them, no, it isn't, that's just mere dictum. That Glendora is entitled by Article 3 of the Constitution of the United States to a judge, a federal judge, okay? And a clerk is not a judge. A clerk is not a suffragan judge. Gamma defendants. Defendants Heinemann, Vega, and Allman are sued for repetitive violations of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rules 76 to 79. Allman is the United States District Judge in the Eastern District of New York, that's Brooklyn. Heinemann is the chief clerk, and Vega is the deputy clerk. They have to file papers. They keep saying the case is closed and they cannot file Glendora's papers. Yet no judgment has been issued. A case cannot be closed until a judgment has been issued. I might issue an order, but you have to have a judgment. They have returned Glendora's papers at least 4 times, and Glendora's May 12th open-faced letter proves Glendora's claim. And that, folks, was read to you at the time it was served. You never hear from him again if you send these open-faced letters, because everybody can read it on the postal trail from here to Brooklyn, New York. Delta defendant. John L. Favreau, F-A-V, victory, R-E-A-U, tries to seduce Clavert into Title 28 U.S. Code Section 144 and Section 354, bias. Those two sections say that if a judge exhibits bias, then an affidavit from the litigant, plaintiff or defendant, and the judge has to step down immediately. They don't do that. That's what the law says, step down immediately. And they stay there and continue their bias and their prejudice and their violation of the flag and pledge of allegiance of the United States. State judges, it's easy to get them to recuse. They don't want to do the work. Federal judges, it's very hard to get them recused. However, I have succeeded in some of them. Favreau violates Rule 4D, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. He thinks the rule was put up there not to follow, instead of to follow. The defendant had a civic duty to waive the cost of serving a summons. That's what Rule 4D says. They tell you that you have a civic duty to waive the cost of acknowledge the lawsuit and waive the cost of serving a summons. To Glendora's prejudice, Favreau misunderstands and misapplies and misargues Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 4D, the one I just told you about. Glendora's April 23rd paper, infra, lists further offenses. This too. I read to you at the time it was served. And this great Favreau, who was a so-called attorney for the so-called New York State Public Service Commission, doesn't know that UPS doesn't deliver to a post office box. Now we're up to the Epsilon defendants. Kathy Catterson, who is the chief clerk of the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco, has committed 18 U.S. Code Section 1001, lying and misrepresenting, over a dozen times. Here she is, the clerk of the court, and she doesn't know what to do when a lawsuit is filed against her. Her business is lawsuits. But when a lawsuit is filed against her, she certainly acts dumb. Glendora invokes 18 U.S. Code Section 1941 RICO, Racketeer Influenced Crime Organization, to deal with her criminal violations. Glendora's open-faced letter to Catterson of May the 20th includes proof of Catterson's abyss. This too was read to you when it was served. That's an open-faced letter. It tells the whole world. Well, it tells everybody across the United States on the postal trail, but it's the internet that tells the whole world. That's one of her open-faced letters, and here is another one. Here's another Clavert paper. This is a notice of appeal with attachment. Notice to the clerk. Make certain the attachment with the notice of appeal goes to the circuit, 7th Circuit. And that is out of place. That is another paper against Clavert. Just a second, folks. I hear some noises at the back door, and it might be the skunk or the raccoon. It may have been, but there's just rain out there now. For all the saints who from their labors rest, who thou by faith before the world confessed. Thy name, O Jesus, be forever blessed. Hallelujah, hallelujah. This is the next to the last group of defendants. For you people who tuned in late, why did you? This is Zeta defendant, Peter Lane, and those who colluded with him. Peter Lane is a city judge in the city of Rye, county of Westchester, state of New York. And Peter Lane denied Glendora her $3,000 damages owed her by Cablevision billionaire Charles F. Dolan. At trial, Glendora asked him, "What is your statutory basis?" When Peter Lane, I couldn't believe that he did that. It was so obvious, and the record was so clear, and he just denied it. And he says, "What is your statutory authority?" And he was stumped. He had no answer. And he looked at his colluder, Cablevision's liar for hire, Robert M. Callaghan, their lawyer, Sadler's Stevens, Burke and Burke. He looked at him, hoping that he would come up with a statutory authority. But the lawyer couldn't either. At close of trial, Peter Lane asked Charles Dolan's liar for hire to submit a memorandum of law stating statutory basis for not awarding Glendora her $3,000 damages, and the return date was March the 4th, 2004. By March the 15th, Glendora had not heard from Dolan's Park Avenue lawyer. Now this is a Park Avenue lawyer in a small claims court. Glendora moved for default judgment, New York analog to Rule 55, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Well, instead of adjudicating according to law and granting Glendora's motion for default judges, Peter Lane sent her a copy of Cablevision lawyer's memorandum of law. Now, this is not right. Since when does a judge serve the defendant's papers on the plaintiff? And you want to know something? That's the second time Peter Lane has done that. The first time was on August the 16th, 2002, 2 years ago. Lane served lawyer's motion to dismiss on Glendora. Now, in both cases, the lawyer should have served the lawyer's papers on Glendora. Why should the judge do it for him? So, what does Glendora have against Peter Lane? A, no statutory authority. B, no default judgment. And C, he serves the defendant's papers. Now add to supra, the memorandum of law was nothing but a letter. It was not a grown-up legal paper. And all it said was that the Cablevision lawyer could not find any statutory authority to grant Glendora the $3,000 damages. Well, this is hardly a memorandum of law. No law was stated. So that is D that Glendora has against Peter Lane. Glendora and her friend, George McDonough, submitted over 500 pages of statutory authority why she should be paid the $3,000 damages. E is that the appeals court ruled that Glendora should be awarded $3,000. And in the spring of 2003, Glendora asked the Peter Lane court for $3,000. And the Peter Lane court denied the $3,000. And the appeals court reversed Peter Lane. So the reverse of deny is grant, isn't it, folks? Peter Lane should have granted the $3,000. But Peter Lane and Cablevision lawyer did not want anybody to read the order of the appeals court. 3 times, Glendora, at trial, sought to read the order of the appeals court into the record. And 3 times Peter Lane blocked this. Well, for 6 hours of that, both Lane and Cablevision lawyer Callaghy ignored what the appeals court ordered. The appeals court ordered Dolan Cablevision pay Glendora the $3,000, and this is, of course, F, count F against Peter Lane. Dolan Cablevision lawyer Robert M. Callaghy adumbrated and eschewed what the appeals court ordered. Peter Lane colluded with him. Meanwhile, this Park Avenue lawyer Callaghy is costing Dolan and Cablevision something like $10,000, I estimate, and so does George. So Glendora has a charge of failure to do fiduciary duty to the shareholders, of which I'm one, and this is count G. Instead of holding Callaghy to the gravamen, $3,000 damages, Peter Lane let Callaghy circumlocute for 6 hours. He ordered, or rather he droned on about non-issues, the returning of the tapes, which is a non-issue, and the appellate term said it was a non-issue, and having no jurisdiction over Charles Dolan, which is res judicata. The appellate term told Peter Lane that he couldn't say that Peter Lane didn't have jurisdiction over Charles Dolan, and Peter Lane got around to saying that he did. Now, the appeals court had already settled these 2 issues. Peter Lane had no jurisdiction to return the tapes because Glendora did not ask for the tapes to be returned. And Peter Lane did have jurisdiction over Charles Dolan. Now, Lane should never allow this to go on for 6 hours. Additionally, Callaghy should have dissolved or disclosed up front. This is what he had in mind. This is what he had planned. Indeed, it was an ambush. Glendora had all the answers, but they were all home. This was ambush. And it was also ambitch. And this is count I against Peter Lane. Do you see? It was ambitch, roundabout way, and ambush. A trap, hoping to ensnare me. This is Peter Lane, City Judge, City of Rye, County of Westchester, State of New York. Callaghy never could find statutory authority, so Peter Lane coached him on federal law. This is federal law in small claims court. Lane told him to look up Title 47 U.S. Code, Section 558, and to submit a paper. Well, see the enclosed paper. And this is count J against Peter Lane. Well, Callaghy did, and nothing in 558 applies. It is totally irrelevant. And this is now sham number K. Lane's letting the trial go to 6 hours made a huge problem. The minutes are $1,300. Now that's another scam in the courts stenographers. There's no need for those minutes to be $1,300. There's no need for them to charge $5 a page for a page that's half empty. We're getting rid of court stenographers gradually. Glendora does not have $1,300. She applied to Lane to procure the $1,300, and Lane denied it. So Glendora cannot appeal. Now this is an abominable denial of due process. And this is count number L against Peter Lane. Herein, Lane is being sued under 42 U.S. Code, Section 1983, Civil Rights, and Section 1985, Conspiracy. Dolan, Cablevision, and Callagy are sued as accomplices, as accessories before the fact and after the fact. Lane denied Glendora's demand for trial by jury. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 28. This is count number Emma. Lane refused Glendora's request to make Dolan, chief defendant, appear in persona. This is count number N. Lane and Callagy refused to produce Carmody-weight proof that Callagy was authorized to represent Dolan and Cablevision. And this is count number O. Lane refused to let Glendora videotape her trial.